So we can bring in some elements of Silence of the Lambs.
I was you get out of my head. Yes, I was singing that for real.
On the first episode of Female Film Bros,
we're getting together for a pitch meeting.
With only the genre of thriller as a prompt, me and Jazz are going to come up with a feature film concept on the spot.
This means plot structure. This means characters. This means we are hypothetically casting our fictional movie.
And I wonder who we should cast.
How about that rising star Victoria Pedretti?
And maybe Forrest Whitaker?
Classic. Join us as we take you through the process of what it takes to write an entire script for a feature film.
It's going to be out of this world.
Okay. Have you ever wanted to do a noir movie?
Yes, of course. I want to do every type of movie eventually.
Same.
But
noirs are like, I think this is fair to say, I think they're notoriously difficult. And especially, I mean, every movie's difficult to do right, but noir is like, you know, we have a lot of these genres that go back to the golden era, you know? And this is one of those traditional genres, but also it's like, you don't, it's, I think we've talked about this before, you know, like there's studios that do, okay, we're going to do a drama for the fall and we're going to do a comedy for the spring. You know what I mean? So like it's there's versatile genres and like you don't get yearly noirs.
You don't. It is definitely a filmmaker's genre.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't get like definitely like studio people, producer people, they're not drawn to those because like first of all they don't, I mean, it depends. Like, they do make money, but it's not, like, the first thing people think of like, making money.
I think, like, maybe, an easy, mistake about it would be, like, the visuals are hard. But, and I mean, noirs are typically stylized, but the story is, I think people underestimate how difficult it is to tell a good thriller. Because, I mean, the name in itself is daunting. You have to thrill people.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's such, like, a big, important part of any... I mean, I think any story needs to have a thrill aspect to it. It needs to have that mystery, whether it's, will this person succeed in this way? Like, it can be a comedy and still have that question of, will this get answered? Yeah. You know? And I think every story needs that element of it. I especially love thrillers just in general. Like, it's one of my favorite genres in film. And I think they're especially given to specific directors. So, like, David Fincher or... I can't think. Well, Alfred Hitchcock. I mean, I can't think of like a modern person other than David Fincher.
Yeah, I want to add to your point about the whole thrill aspect. Every story should have a thrill aspect, which I agree with. But I think it's safe to say also that thrillers in particular, they're the one genre that's always going to be life or death stakes. But they're not going to be... Some thrillers are melodramatic, but the tightrope act is to make it life or death, but not incredibly melodramatic. Right. Unless you're going like for that cartoony aspect, which some of them do, you know, like Dick Tracy and stuff. Or, you know, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But those are very specific cases of like cartoony things. But yeah, I don't know. That just, I thought that was needed to be pointed out.
For people who, this is our first episode, I'm really excited about it. And what we're going to try to do with this podcast is try to come up with a movie on the spot. And reason why we're talking about thrillers is because we're going to specifically try to do in this episode a thriller. with maybe some supernatural tendencies.
Yeah, because one thing we talked about before recording this is thrillers is one of those big genres that have a lot of sub-genres attached to them. So, like, you know, who did Seven? Was that David Fincher?
It was, yeah. Also David Fincher.
Yeah. So, like, you think of a movie like Seven, that's a thriller, but it's crime-based, right? Mm-hmm. But then you would have a thriller that's like The Conjuring, but it's supernatural-based. Or you could think of a thriller like... There was something else I thought of. It's a lot of crime. Like, thrillers often coupled with mystery, but like you said, too, there's also supernatural thrillers. Or, like, psychological thrillers. Like, Seven is a psychological thriller.
And I think for the concept we'll kind of come up with today, I definitely want to lean on the psychological aspect of the thriller. Because that's definitely the thing I'm drawn to the most. Like, if I go to see a thriller in theaters, or even just to watch on, like, Netflix or whatever, I definitely lean on that, like Hush by Mike Flanagan. Mm-hmm. Like, that, yes, that has horror elements, but it's mostly a thriller, because you're just like, will this woman survive? This deaf woman, will she survive this situation where she doesn't know where the threat is coming from? And I just really enjoy, like, movies like that.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's do it. So, my idea for this is basically a thriller that the question is, was somebody abducted by aliens? And so I want to try to build out a character first, but around that concept of, was this person loved one abducted by aliens or not? So, and they have to figure it out. And so the psychological aspect is, are they crazy, or they're actually aliens?
One of the first, I know you said when you want to... I know you said you wanted to start out with a character, but when you say that, my first question naturally that comes to me is, do we want the audience to believe they're crazy, or do they believe that the character, do they believe it?
One thing I really hate in movies is like a lot of times, especially with this type of concept, it's like we immediately believe the protagonist.
Yeah.
And I would want something that questions that a little bit. Like, maybe at first we don't know what to believe. And then something in that second act makes us be like, okay, yes, this is what is happening. And then towards breaking to 3, we need something that's like, makes us disbelieve everything that has come up so far. Does that make sense?
Okay.
And into that third act of, like, do we believe, do we not believe? Like, I want the...
So you want it to be kind of like a maze situation where we're leading the audience through the maze and they don't know at first, but then they think they do know where they're going. And then right when they're about to get to the end, it's like they hit a dead end.
Exactly.
Yeah. So like a mind
like a mind fuck. For the first episode, let's just do a mind
Let's just
That's what
everybody. Let's just you.
Well, I want to
what you know.
I want to do an unreliable narrator.
Yeah.
You know,
and
like,
see, that was what the point of my question too, because it's like, for the character, you know, especially if we're talking about thrillers, are they reliable or not? So
yeah.
We're going to go with unreliable narrator.
We're going to go with she's an unreliable I want to do a woman, too.
Okay.
Because it's always a woman. But I want it to be like she's an unreliable narrator. And maybe she's a cop. But I don't know how you feel about cops. Like in movies. I know it's not your favorite thing.
No, I mean, like, detectives are fine. You know what? I mentioned noir earlier, and I feel like we haven't had a private detective, iconic private detective character in a while, so I wouldn't mind doing something like that. Like somebody who's like maybe been jaded.
What about her backstory is she was a cop, and then once this person disappeared, they quit their job and became a private detective.
Yeah.
So that's like where the story is coming off. Like the backstory is she was a cop, maybe she worked for the CIA because that's like a little bit more important and like they know more gnarlier than like FBI.
Yeah.
And then she experienced something which made her quit. And I think maybe the loved one either needs to be a daughter or a husband or a partner. Something along those lines.
I kind of like the idea of a partner. I like the idea that maybe they came up together in the academy. And, like, it's almost like either a sibling relationship. Because it would be, I was going to say, like, a sister-like relationship, but it would be cool if it was a dude. And, like, they had a brother-sister type kind of bond. And they looked out for each other because, you know, they're partners. And they came up in training together. And it would also make sense to me, story-wise, that maybe the superiors or the other people in the CIA were able to be just like, well, this happens sometimes. Like, they were able to deflect the investigation better because it's like, well, this happens, you know, if they're not related, because I feel like she would have more justification to pursue the investigation if they were like a relative. But if it was her partner, they could just be write it off, you know, like, it's tragedy, but this happens.
Okay, I'm down with that. The only thing I would worry about is that it doesn't have enough stakes, because I know partner, like, what kind of relationship did they have? Obviously, I think you're leaning towards they did not have, like, a romanticness to their relationship as sibling-like, but, like, why is that a core part of her person? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Well, one idea that I was kind of meditating on is maybe, like, it was just the first of a series of events. And, like, maybe that happened a while ago, and she has been trying to move on from it by becoming a private investigator and, like, worrying about other people's shit. But then suddenly similar cases start popping up, and she's kind of forced to revisit it.
So she's a private eye, but she only takes on cases that she thinks may or may not be aliens?
Either like, she's by choice pursuing that, or she's been trying to get past it, but she's unable to because these cases keep coming to her.
Popping up.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
So it kind of brings up that question of, you know, in an inciting incident, the inciting incident is something that happens to your main character. So it's either an accident or, like, fate. So we could decide that.
I like that there's maybe a sequence where she's searching for something. Like, she's searching for a specific case. And, like, most of the cases are, like, these bogus. Like, when you think of, like, alien abduction, you think of, like, bogus cases. Like,
conspiracy
crackpots. Yeah, conspiracy theories and that kind of thing. So I like that maybe there might be a sequence where she's talking to different people. And, like, some of them are, of course, more ridiculous than others. Like, she's talking to a guy, and he's just like, there's lizard people everywhere, and blah, blah, blah.
I had an idea. I don't know if you'll like it.
Okay, go ahead.
It makes me think of this quote-unquote real story that I watched a documentary on. And it was like, this weird event happened one night in this one town. But, like, it happened to a bunch of different people in the same town. So it's like, what if her partner was from this town, and that's where she moves her practice to, and that's how she discovers all these similar people who have these similar experiences. And it's, like, related to what happened one night to a bunch of people in this one area.
Interesting. I like it. I definitely think we can go with it, because I think here's what I'm picturing, is, like, her and her partner were together, and maybe something happened in their, like, partnership where they broke up, and she went to, like, go say, you know, go to this hometown to, like, make amends and be like, you know, but before she could get there, this event happened where he died.
Okay.
Or was adopted or whatever, and she saw something that was not of this world. And so,
since it's an unreliable narrator, what if she doesn't remember that immediately? What if this event is played out throughout the movie in, like, flashbacks? It's like she's slowly remembering what actually happened.
So what do we want our setup to be? Do we want it to be like she's at the academy with the partner, and then that event happens where they don't, where their friendship breaks? Like, or do we want that to be like background, and then we open on her,
I think,
like, searching for that?
It seems, with how we're going, you can disagree, but from what I can gather right now, this is like a truth-seeking story,
Yeah.
So to me, what I would want to say is the setup is we are starting out with her starting her private practice, and either is she relocating to this hometown where everything kind of took place, or is she visiting?
I think she's relocating. Okay. I like that she's in the town.
Yeah.
She's new in town. That's it. She's new in town. New practice, that kind of thing. And then we explore either in dialogue or in flashbacks that she was part of that CIA.
Right. So to me, like, that would be the setup, her starting over, the start over thing. And then as the thread goes, we're moving backwards. And once we get to, quote unquote, back to the beginning, that's where we get our answer. That's where we get our resolution. So it's like, it's a reverse flow.
Interesting. I like it. So I like where the setup is. Who do we want to cast for this? Because I feel like that will help us a lot to know what type of character she is.
Yeah. What age group are we thinking?
So I kind of was thinking like she was maybe like late 20s, early 30s, right? Mm-hmm. And then the partner was older. So maybe it's like, yes, there's a friendship there, but maybe it's more of a father-daughter type relationship.
Oh, yeah. That gives me Contact vibes. We're talking about aliens and stuff. Anyways. Is
that a movie? Contact?
Yeah, Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey.
I've never seen it. Nope.
Oh my god, dude, we gotta watch that. But anyways,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro.
As soon as you watch it, you'll be like, okay, yeah, I get what you're saying.
Okay.
But it's funny that you don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, okay. I just came up with that.
Okay, so, okay. I kind of like that, because it would be kind of, I like that. So let's think.
And maybe she didn't have a father figure in her life.
Yeah.
And he was that for her.
Yeah.
And so that kind of gives us that emotional distance of, like, they were just, like, good partners, but then there's also maybe a deeper thing there of, father-daughter relationship.
Oh, man. This is cool, because I was just kind of, I don't know, I was doing, like, character bio things for, personal writing stuff, and I was looking at older actors and, like, who would I picture for this type of character? So it's really coincidental that we're talking about, like, father-esque actors, because I've literally just been doing the research.
Interesting.
I love Willem Dafoe. Like, he's the first person that comes to my mind.
I love him. Okay. I would be down for him. Any other suggestions?
I'm kind of like, you know how you have like a mental Rolodex? That's what I'm doing. I'm just like.
I was literally, I know you said Matthew McConaughey was in that movie with Jodie Foster, but I was literally kind of thinking Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, but like, is he too fresh off of like True Detective and stuff for it to be like a little bit too?
Yeah, but like I like that.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Or like a Woody Harrelson.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Do you know who's a good actor? Vince Vaughn.
Yeah.
Like as a dramatic actor. No one ever really thinks about him for that.
I accidentally found one of his like earlier roles, and it was I was almost going to tell you about it a while ago, but the movie was so stupid I didn't want to bring it up. But it was like a serious role, and the extra cherry on top of it being hilarious was Paul Rudd was also in it playing a dramatic role. So it was like Vince Vaughn and Paul Rudd in this like southern almost Tennessee Williams type bullshit, and it was like
weird,
so bad. But seeing them together in it, and like in your head, you're like, they're funny. But in the movie, they're like super serious and stuff.
Funny.
Yeah. And I was just like, this is wrong. Even though I know they're both dramatic, they can be dramatic and actors and stuff. But for some reason, my mind was just not wanting to go there,
It's so weird. Yeah. Yeah. Or Paul Rudd would be a good choice too, because he can also do dramatic. Yeah. But it would definitely be like, if we did cast like a Vince Vaughn type, like that character would need to be like, I mean, not like broad comedy funny, but like maybe searing sarcasm, dry funny.
Yeah. I mean, I can see Vince Vaughn being like totally dramatic. It was just, for some reason in that movie, I don't know. That's not related to
that
this.
That pairing.
But, yeah.
That pairing was just too, like, the expectation of seeing, like, a Paul Rudd paired with anybody else of, like, comedy is just, like, this is going to be funny, and then it just doesn't compute. I totally get it, like, immediately. But, let's go with Vince Vaughn, if you're down for the detective.
Yeah.
Or Willem Dafoe, your choice.
It's really funny that, like, as I was being quiet, because I was like, another one that popped in my head was Forrest Whitaker. He's also played, authority figures, and I love him. Yes. It's so hard, but it's like I'm not trying to typecast either. But
he would also be like perfect.
I know.
Let's just do Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah, let's do Forrest Whitaker.
This is a made up movie. He's not gonna star in it. It's not
you
real.
Don't know
let's
that.
Just do.
He could say yes. He can be available.
Okay, who are we gonna cast as the lead? I would like to cast like what's her name? Tessa Thompson? Tessa.
Oh yeah. I like Tessa.
Yeah, I do too. And I feel like she could be like it's the good tone between like funny, like searing sarcasm and like serious. Like I feel like she could pull that off. So it's going to be Tessa Thompson, Forrest Whitaker as these two.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I don't know. Like, ooh.
Oh my god.
Like what is the tone of this movie? Because like Tessa for this, I don't know. Like I like Tessa, but I don't know about for this,
Okay.
It doesn't fit the tone I'm picturing.
Okay. Who are you picturing?
I don't know. I don't know who I'm picturing, but I'm not it wouldn't hit hard enough
not
for me.
Her.
Yeah.
What about a like Michelle Williams type?
No. I need somebody who's like, oh god. It's like I can see it in my head, but it's hard to describe. It's like I need somebody who looks like they don't fit into that hard-boiled egg noir thing. But once you see them in the situation, you're like, oh, they were born for this. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Let me think.
Ooh. What about it's somebody we both like? She was in The Haunting Collection and she was in You. What's her fucking name? Because she's perfect. Because she looks soft, but she's like hard. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Victoria Pedretti.
I think she has. Yeah,
Chef's
she
kiss.
has perfect casting. Yes, love her. Let's do that. And with like, I just feel like that feels right too with Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah,
like that just feels right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we can kind of like you said, she has like a softness to her, but also she can play hard,
mm-hmm.
and we know what kind of like range she has.
Yes.
So, because we're both big fans of Haunting of Hill House. So yeah. And you.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely. I think we can kind of hone that a little bit into what she would be good at.
Yeah.
In the script. So she's kind of has this hardness to her, but she also looks soft. So we can bring in some elements of Silence of the Lambs.
I was you get out of my head. Yes, I was saying that for real. I wasn't going to say anything. For some reason, I was just like, no, don't say anything. And then you said it, and I was like, oh my God. Anyways, one other thing I was thinking about too, you know, I want to bring, I'm just going to be bringing this back to the noir, you know, vibes. But it's almost like, you know, a revision of the noir where she's both the detective and the damsel that comes in to ask for help that you're not sure of. You know? But she's like the hybrid of those archetypes for me. Yes. I don't know if you like that.
I like it. I do like that. I like it a lot. Okay. So she comes into this town. What's the town's name? Well, something Forks.
For some reason, when you said that, it made me think of towns that have like obnoxiously on the nose names.
Yes. I'm thinking this is like set in like Washington State.
Yeah.
It has like a
should it be a fictional town or should it be like a real town?
Fictional.
Okay.
Sorry. Disappearing Falls.
Oh my God, no. I don't want to do falls because I was already thinking that. I was like, we're not doing falls.
Okay, falls. Winter Falls.
I said we're not doing falls. No falls.
I thought you literally just said,
no,
we're doing falls.
No, we're not doing falls because it's too Vampire Diaries for me. I don't even know what that town's called in there, but it just reminds me. Anyways, I'm thinking of like, you know, those, I don't know if it would be an adjective, but you know, those, not like eerie, but words like that, like used to describe creeps.
Ravenstown.
Oh my God. Is this a young adult novel?
Oh God. I'm throwing shit out. Sometimes shit stinks, Jazz. Sometimes it stinks. What about something with water and creek? Like you could do river. I mean, we could literally just call it like Riverside, or I don't know. Like, this is such a minor detail to get stuck on.
I mean, I don't think so, because if the event is anchored to this place, it would be like the place would be a character.
Okay. Okay. So we know these aliens come to this town, right? Mm-hmm. Why specifically this town? Like, what would be the history behind that? Because that might clue us into
another question. Are the aliens the bad guys, or are they protecting the town from the bad guy? Are they a protector?
I like that they're protecting, because that's a little bit more twisty. But they look like a threat at first. Like, we think they're a threat up until the end. Maybe there's some kind of like resource in the town that's like a new level of power, like a new energy source. And so they're trying to protect it because humanity isn't ready for it.
So like these people who, like, for example, if her partner got killed or whatever, why? Did they discover the thing, or?
I think they discovered the thing. He was going to bring the CIA. Maybe he found it. He was going to bring the CIA there. And then he died. He went crazy, too. It needs to be like he went nuts and died. Mm-hmm. You know, so there's that kind of, like, murkiness to it. But, like, the protagonist knows that he didn't, like, it's, like, he didn't do it. Or maybe he's blamed for a murder, like a killing.
I kind of, when you were talking, I like the idea that maybe at first, especially since she doesn't know what's going on, she's an unreliable narrator, that at first we see her partner as a victim, and then at the second half we realize maybe
he's a villain?
Not necessarily a villain, but like not totally innocent, you know?
Yeah.
And like her perspective changes versus like at first she thinks she's trying to honor and avenge him, and then it suddenly turns into this, well, he was like collateral damage.
Yes. Okay. As you were talking, I was thinking maybe he calls her and is like, this is happening. And maybe he says it's aliens. Maybe it needs to clue her in on what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then when she gets there with like backup, it's like a murder-suicide. So then they think, oh, he went crazy.
Okay.
You know? But like she knows he would never do that.
What if the town's name was something to do with like a wild animal? Like we talked about Creek and stuff, and I keep thinking of Bear Creek, but what if it's related to an animal name that's like an animal that preys, like is not like a tactical animal, they just kind of, you know what I'm talking about? Like a coyote, like you gotta be careful because they're not scared of anything. They'll just attack.
Interesting. I don't know. Because possums are kind of like that. Raccoons are kind of like that.
But I'm talking about something that can actually kill you in one attack.
Yeah, I know. I know.
I need a cool name.
You now need this cool name.
Yeah. So what is like the internal journey that our main character is going on? Like, what is the theme here?
I guess it's maybe like trust of country. You know, like maybe there's like, maybe she was very, not maybe patriotic's not the word, but crisis of belief.
Yeah, I think you were
government.
I think you hit something with trust. Like it needs to be a little bit universal, and trust, especially if we're talking about her trust shifting of the person. Like at first, you know, like her thing shifts with them the more she finds out. So, like, what truth should she learn about that at the end? That kind of like, is she saved at the end, or is it like a tragic? Do we want to go tragic with it?
I think if the whole thing is like, who should she trust in all of this? So like, usually with these types of things, your protagonist doesn't believe in aliens. And then eventually they learn to believe in aliens because it becomes overwhelming, like the facts. But we're kind of doing an opposite of that, where she believes in aliens, but no one else. She is the Mulder. No. Which one was Mulder and which one was Scully?
Scully was the non-believer.
So she is the Mulder in this situation, right? And everyone else is Scully.
Well, we're talking about aliens, and usually in an alien story, it's about knowledge, right? So, like, how can we relate trust and knowledge to it to make a theme? Like, if the aliens are the truth, and she's struggling with trust, what equals what to get the theme?
Okay, well, let's go back to the main thing of here's the twist. I think that would be interesting is that she doesn't think that the Forrest Whitaker killed himself. Like that goes back. That's what started all of that. But what if the twist is he actually did?
Oh. You know, this makes me think of like fact versus intuition. So maybe I think we need to change a little bit. Maybe she starts out not being a Scully. And then she has to learn to trust her intuition, and that's what brings us to the resolution, because it's not just about hard facts, because those can be twisted, right? And like the real truth is following your gut.
But I kind of liked that she was a believer, and then as she becomes more of an unreliable narrator,
well, what if
that belief?
What if in the before story? What if in the before story she was like a believer? You know, and then once that thing happens to him, she kind of her faith is tested, so then she's like unsure, and that's where we start the story, is in this uncertainty, right? And that's where we get this hard. She's soft, but she's got this hard core, you know, hard center.
Yeah. What if we had a sequence right at the beginning of the story, where it's like she's a little kid and she's like talking to her mom, and like her dad's in the background, and that can kind of explain maybe the distance between her and her dad. Like she's trying to get his attention, he's not really paying attention, and then eventually he just like leaves. But what if it's like she believes in aliens, like she's watching a TV show with aliens, and she asks her dad like, are aliens real? And he's just like kind of not paying attention. He's like, yeah, whatever. And then that's what kind of like, where would you go to like learn about aliens or like figure out if they're real?
Yeah.
Or the father's abducted by aliens when she was a kid.
No.
I mean, that's
let me stop you right there.
But whatever.
I have an opening scene based off of what you said. But it's better. So what if it's a typical stakeout, or like they're pulling up to, this is her and her partner. They're pulling up to like one of their last things together, right? And since we're talking about the CIA, it's kind of like one of those things where they pull up with the big dick. They're like, yeah, this is our case now. But this is like before they get out of the car. So they're in the car together, and it's like one of those typical father-daughter situations, like the dropping them off at school kind of thing, where they're sitting in the car having a heart-to-heart, right? And what if it's, I almost picture like a Hustle and Flow type scene where it's very still and almost one frame for a long time. And the Forrest Whitaker character brings up this old sci-fi show. And he's like, did you ever watch Twilight Zone? Whatever. And because maybe he's a believer, and he's kind of like trying to tip her off over, like, it's almost like a foreshadowing thing. And he's like, have you ever watched the show? And then she could kind of talk about her dad. So we're not like having all these flashbacks of setup or like before story, because it's totally distracting. But she can talk about her childhood. But the scene is like, I don't know if I'm describing it right. I just picture it. We're showing you one thing, but it's really another thing. And it makes sense at the end, by the end of the movie.
What if the Forrest Whitaker character is an alien?
Oh my god,
that's
no.
the
I would burn the theater down.
You were just like, no, my thing's better, and then you literally described a boring ass scene. Like, that's literally what happened.
It's not boring, though. You just don't know what it is.
They're in a car later. And they're talking about a TV show. And then mine's like, her father got abducted by aliens. If I read it,
you'd be like, oh yeah. But it's, like I said, it's hard to describe. Because, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it.
Listen, we're getting too distracted. Okay. All right? We need to figure out, like, what is the twist of this? Like, what, so that way we can figure out what we need to set up. Because I think we got a good beginning. Like, we have a good beginning. We need to figure out what the break into two and the ending is. Those are, like, the most important parts. We have a good setup.
So if we're talking about a theme of, trust in your intuition versus cold hard facts, I'm also still looking at these animals, and I'm just like, let's just fucking call it Grizzly Peak or something. Something stupid.
Grizzly Falls.
Sure.
Just go with it.
Fine. Whoever directs this can change the name.
So I think we need to figure out what that ending is. What is the twist? So that way it like makes sense when we set it up. So it's either it has to have something to do with Forrest Whitaker's death and how is not what it was first perceived to be.
Yeah.
Obviously, he dies, right, in whatever accent. Either it's like, you never said whether or not you like the murder-suicide thing. I think it's fine, but I also think murdered? It could be...
Who was murdered?
Like a wife.
Oh.
Just a... wife character. She doesn't matter.
This random thing happened. It doesn't matter. Whatever. I
mean, we could make her matter more, but I'm just saying the end result was that he murdered. He either killed himself, fine, he's lonely and he's by himself, and they're just like, he's divorcee with 3 kids.
I mean, I think that's just incidental. I don't think that's going to help focusing on that right now.
Okay.
We need to tie these aliens into... Are we still sticking with the whole, resource thing?
I mean, do you want to change it?
I don't know.
I'm just trying to think of, like, what would be a good reason for aliens to protect something. And it's either like we're depriving the planet of resources, and so they're trying to protect this resource, and you have like an environmentalist theme to it, or oftentimes alien stories are supposed to show how often alien stories are not about the aliens, but about humanity, right, and about how humanity treats itself.
Yeah. So here's what I'm thinking. I was trying to gather my thoughts. So what if actually they hid something in this town? Because I'm like, okay, this is probably a small town. This is probably in the wilderness. You know, we were talking about dangerous animals and stuff. What if, you know, you talk about small towns and like, have you ever like, I know you probably have, but I'm just going to phrase it like this. Have you ever been through a small town and you're like, what is keeping this town alive? Because there's like literally nothing there, you know?
Yeah.
One general store and a gas station.
Yeah.
But like people live there. So what if and that's kind of included in the setup of like, this town is shit. But it's wrapped up in the thing that keeps it going is people are like helping hide the thing that the aliens kind of put there, and that can kind of bring in the conspiracy and the whole CIA maybe like covering it up, that, you know, and what it is it's actually something dangerous. It's almost like a disease, like a contaminant, and if it gets discovered, it would be the ruination of not just humanity, but, you know, it would spread or something.
I like that maybe it's like a universal, it's like a rock. Like the big thing, the actual thing is like a rock of some sort of like asteroid or something, and it has like the universal language of the universe. And so if we're going with this whole knowledge is power,
so literally the Rosetta Stone.
Like it's the Rosetta Stone. Yeah.
I don't know, is that too like a rival though? Like, wasn't there like a communication theme there?
There was a communication theme, but there's a communication theme with all fucking alien movies, because it's about communicating with certain things. I'm not saying it's not like a rival, but I'm saying that like they don't want us to have. I'm not. What did you say? Some kind of disease? Only like a certain person with immunity can touch the stone without dying. So like you have people in this town who come in contact with this thing, and then something happens to their bodies and they're able to like speak different languages, that kind of thing. So it's like the sickness, and then they die. And so it's like maybe they go to investigate that, of like maybe someone's poisoning the water.
Yeah, because that's very like small town conspiracy. Like there's something in the water.
There's something in the water. So that like maybe that's their initial thing of like why they go to that small town. And then maybe the partner touches the stone by accident. She doesn't touch it, but he touches it. And then that cycle happens of, oh, he just had it, but it looks like he just had a heart attack.
You know what? You know, we talked about the aliens protecting it, but what if they were looking for it to get it off the planet? Because it was more dangerous on the planet.
Searching for it? Yes.
And the town is trying to keep it from the aliens.
Is it the town, or is it like a bigger government?
The CIA, whatever. Yes, whoever hid it there.
Okay, yes.
And that's why it's like a breach of security that he died and the CIA is trying to cover it up. Yeah.
They can't remove it. Well, obviously they can't touch it because every person who touches it dies. So... yeah, that would make sense of like why they have to. And so all these people that are in this town are actually secretly CIA. And that's what's keeping the town alive, is like because they have to be there.
I feel like we're inevitably getting to the conclusion that she can touch the thing and she's going to give it back to the aliens. I feel like that's the natural. I mean,
that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Sometimes endings are not hard. They're just like there.
Yeah. Sometimes I don't trust easy natural flows though. I'm not saying this is one of those cases, but there are times where I'm like, that's too easy.
Yeah, but I mean, there has to be something specifically about her that is special. And we'll need to figure that out. But I mean, that's the ending, is that she's the person who can actually touch the stone and return it to the aliens for them to leave. But...
And I think that would be our through line with her character, is at first she's trying to protect the thing, and because she thinks that alien things is a threat, especially since her mentor died or was killed, maybe possibly by the aliens.
By them?
Yeah. And then it would flip where she realizes, oh, I was working for the bad guys, and actually I need to help the aliens.
Okay. I love it. I actually really love it. Okay. So our catalyst, I feel like, has to be, like, in that setup, we have to have that her and Forrest Whitaker are, like, together. And then the setup is they go to this small town because they've been assigned. People have been dying in this thing.
You're going to hate me. But going back to my opening scene, that's why the conversation would make sense, is because he's probably trying to help the aliens. And that's why he gets killed. Maybe he gets killed by the CIA people to be a cover-up.
I love it. Yes.
And that's what makes her shift later when she finds out, probably around the midpoint, you know, where everything kind of flips. Boom. Did you ever see that TV show?
Maybe he... Yes. Maybe he realizes, oh, the CIA are coming for this thing, and I need to hide it in a different place. And so he purposely picks it up.
Yeah.
To move it somewhere else, knowing that he will die.
Yes.
And so then, in that, like, and so during that time before he, like, whatever transformation happens, let's say, you know, people die within the hour after touching it. Like, it's got to be some kind of short time frame.
Yeah.
He talks to her and he tries to convince her that not everything is what it seems.
Right.
And tries to communicate that to her. But as he's, like, going through these motions, he's talking gibberish.
Yeah.
But it's actually alien language and not English. But he, you know, he's trying to communicate to her. I love this.
And you know what we should do to be we should hide that message throughout the movie. And you don't know what it means until the end. But it literally through the whole fucking movie. And it's even Easter egg. Like, we don't even point it out, but it's there.
I love it. I love it so much. Okay. So in the setup, we have the
We could
Victoria
totally work
character.
for Marvel, I'm just saying.
We have a good opening thing. I like that maybe it's like we open on, like, this crane shot of, like, over this open wilderness of forest and, like, mountains and shit.
Yeah.
And then the crane, like, it's almost like a crane drone shot where it, like, flies down and, like, goes into the back window.
Yeah.
And then opens on that conversation.
Yeah.
And so that's, like, the opening shot. And then they have that conversation back and forth.
I would love it. Like, I haven't watched a lot of Twilight Zone and stuff, but I would love it if we actually did. If this script ever happened, like, we would catalog old sci-fi episodes and find an episode where it was like am I looking for a caper? Like, what word am I looking for? You know, like a bait and switch episode of an old sci-fi show, and that's the show he references. So, like, if you know that show, there's your clue, Dick Tracy, you know?
Exactly. Okay, so I feel like we have a solid setup of her going into this town, trying to figure out what's happening in this town, her quitting the CIA. Is she still quitting the CIA, or is she, like, sticking to them?
I feel like, what if they made her, like, forcibly retire, you know, because they were worried that she would figure it out, especially if it's a cover-up, you know?
What if they're like, you need to take a break?
Yeah.
You need to take some time. After blah, 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 you were seeing things of, like, things she knows are real. But gaslighting her.
Yeah.
Ooh, going back to Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
Love it. Full circle.
Yes.
So the setup is that, and then the catalyst has to be, well, what hooks us back into that action is something happens that brings her back to that town.
Well, what if we bring it, we don't have a B story, so what if we do bring in a romance? What if somebody from that town... We get a little romance in there. And he's, like, in on the conspiracies.
Okay, maybe he's, like, not the... I like that maybe he's in law enforcement, too, but he's not, like... Either he's...
What if he has a radio station?
Like, I kind of... Radio station. Okay.
And he reports on the event of the night. And, like, once she goes to that town and sets up the thing, they, like, either meet at a coffee shop, or it's very... incidental, and he's like, hey, weren't you involved in that thing? And she's like, how the fuck did you know that? And he's like, yeah, I reported on it on my radio station.
I like that maybe he's like an alien conspiracy.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I'm talking about, radio station, because he would do like a late night show of his conspiracy theories.
But like the turn of that relationship is he's maybe not using her, but like he is using her to like get closer to the CIA and figure out like what's going on in town because he knows.
Can I have a moment to put in something a little bit cheesy?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna do
Absolutely
it anyway.
Not.
What if?
Well, fuck you.
What if he partly doesn't even believe himself, but he's so used to just living this life that when at the end when he figures out he was right, he's just like, man, I'm just glad you like didn't ever break up with me for being so weird. You know, like he's just constantly grateful that she's still around. And then when everything kind of unfolds, he's like, oh shit, I was right. What? Like he's like,
I like it.
You know, like the whole thing of he's okay with just being a crazy person. But then he's validated that he's just like, he doesn't know what to do with himself.
You know who should play him? And I can't remember his fucking name. He's Canadian. He's like skinny. He was in She's Out of Her League.
Yeah.
Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, he was in $1 Million Baby and stuff. Hold on.
Jay from like This Is the End.
Yes.
And like he's in a lot of like Seth Rogen movies and that kind of thing. So that's who I'm picturing because he's like just like good looking enough to be like a lead.
But you would believe he would be the town weirdo.
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And like I think that's a good pairing with Victoria.
Yes. They would
character.
be cute together.
So dope. Okay. But I like that he's this town weirdo. He has a radio station. I kind of think one of the external, like, there should be, like, the main bad guy is the CIA, but then, like, the town bad guy is, like, the sheriff. Because they're in cahoots. Because he doesn't like that she's, like...
corruption.
Yes. They're in, like, cahoots together.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then, he can be, like, kind of
woman.
sexist towards her. I like that.
Woman. I want a hard ass. I want that bitch. Oh, you know what it should be? It should be somebody like fucking Xena. What's her goddamn name? She has an awesome ass real name. I want somebody like that. I don't think for the sheriff.
Okay, I was not picturing a woman, but thank you for subverting my expectations.
Yeah, Lucy Lawless. I want somebody like Lucy Lawless.
Okay, I like it. And maybe in the end, she, like, turns on the CIA.
Yeah.
And that's, like, what the Break Into 3 is like, hey, now go get her. Go get him. Mm-hmm. Because, what if Lucy Lawless has a son? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, the CIA kind of throw him under the bus, and then he either interacts with the aliens, or, like, something happens to him, and that's her turning point as a character.
Yeah.
Of like, okay, these fucking aliens need to leave.
Bobby.
But I'm not protecting the CIA because they didn't protect my son.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing. I like it. All right. So I think we have a good little idea. So the ending, obviously we already know what that ending is of she discovers what the thing is, what the stone is, or rock, or whatever it is, meteor. We could call it the meteor. And we still haven't figured out why specifically why she's special, specifically. And why she can touch the stone.
It would be super funny to me. Like, it wouldn't be, like, naturally funny for the story, but it'd be like a, making of funny for me.
Okay.
If she was like, we're talking about aliens, we're talking about conspiracies. What if she has like a very fucking mysterious, she was like a foundling, like she was a found child, and that's part of her essence of what makes her special is like we don't know where she fucking came from, so it could be implied that she has extra abilities.
Interesting. I don't hate it. I feel like, too, if she's, like, a foundling, that would relate to, like, her going to the CIA would not be that
exactly
weird because they search for
she would be
people like
naturally
that.
curious, and want, like, she has so many unknown variables that she would be naturally inclined to seek out knowledge, or be part of problem solving because she can't figure out her own shit.
Okay. I'm good with that. And she's secretly, like, what, part alien?
Maybe. I don't think we don't need to focus on that. That could just be like a unanswered question.
I feel like people would get pissed at that.
Not really. They could just kiss my ass. Like, that's the thing about thrillers is they don't answer all your fucking questions. They're literally, it is typical for there to be a question at the end of a thriller. Even if they resolve the main problem, there's still a question left unanswered.
Yeah. So you're saying to make it more subtle, of like little hints of like she's not entirely human.
Yes.
Okay, I like it. And then that's like the end question. Maybe it's like she has to, at the end, like part of that climax needs to be like she has an actual conversation with these aliens. Mm-hmm. And they then give her the tea.
Yes.
Of like what's going on.
Yes.
And then maybe she asks why. Like, why am I okay? Why, and then and like all their answers are very cryptic because it's like they don't know human language enough to like know how to explain themselves. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Yeah. Or the way they explain things is very different.
For sure. Yeah.
And so their answer to that is like, only people with like only creatures like us can handle blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so that's just the thing that we're left on. Like that final shot needs to be like her thinking, am I?
Now that I'm really thinking about it, now that you're like pushing it, I'm thinking like maybe she's not even of their alien race. Maybe she's from a race that was like annihilated, and that's how she was put on Earth, is because they were like, she was almost put on the Earth like the stone. Like it ended up there.
Yes.
And then she was kind of either they died or she was forgotten or something. But that's her relationship with this element, is that they're the same,
Yes, I like it. But then that, like, it kind of needs to be, like, at the end of Us, where, the son looks at the mom, and he just, like, knows she's Red. And, like, we know, the audience knows that character's the, whatever, double person, like Red, the character. Yeah. And it needs to kind of be like that, where either she looks at herself and she knows, or us as the audience, or either she decides not to, like, she thinks about it for a second, and then because she wants to live her normal life with Jay, she just moves on.
Well, what about, how we could tie it in with the, the whole resolution with the, like, she gives the thing back to the aliens, and, they have that whole conversation, and even though we're not getting full answers, it ties in back to that message we're putting into the whole movie, and it goes back to, like, the stone has to get off Earth, but she doesn't. Like, it's a gray matter. Like, there's a choice or something, Like, there is no choice. This stone has to go back with these aliens, but she has a choice of where she goes. And it ties back to that, whatever the message is that we plant in the whole fucker.
Yeah. Well, I think the message is, like, if we're doing this thing of, like, knowledge is power. Yeah. I think that's the thing of, like, it needs to be either you choose your own family, you choose your own, like,
you said knowledge
destiny.
Is power. And we're talking about in the story, the CIA using this knowledge in a harm, like they're coveting it and it's potentially harmful. And then the aliens are trying to get it back, trying to salvage it so that it isn't harmful. So it's like you have these two, the spectrum thing. But if we're talking about power is a neutral thing. We're the ones, based on how we feel, going back to the whole intuition thing, it's all a matter of how you feel about the power. Because you can use it, you can use anything for good or bad. It's us as humans who put good and evil on things.
Yes. So knowledge is neutral. It's what you do with it that matters.
Yeah.
I like that. As like just because you have knowledge doesn't mean you have to be powerful. It's just you can use it for good or you can use it for evil.
Knowledge is knowledge, but intention is good or evil.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Boom. Okay. The end. Roll the credits. We're done here.
But I want to kind of go over, like, I want at the end of each episode to go over the Blake Snyder beat sheet.
Okay.
See if we can figure out, like, where everything lies in the script. Okay. So opening image would be that swooping forest shot into the car, right? And then the theme stated, we need to, I feel like in that car ride, the Forrest Whitaker says something along the lines of, like, you know, maybe hints towards the evilness of the CIA or the government or whatever. And, you know, maybe says something along the lines of, like, we have a lot of knowledge, but oftentimes we don't know how to use it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that kind of sets up the theme in that car ride. And then in the setup, they go and they meet the Jay character. They meet the sheriff character. They meet maybe some of the townsfolk that are going to play into either being secret CIA or something else.
Do you think Jay should be the one to state the theme?
Probably, yeah. Well, I don't know. Like, that conversation in the car needs to, like, mean something, obviously. So I feel like if the core thing is that the Forrest Whitaker character and the Victoria character have this bond, I feel like that needs to be kind of an intimate moment where it means something. So I think the theme stated needs to be there, and I think the Jay character can kind of restate it to kind of reinforce it. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's all in the setup, and then the catalyst is that the Forrest Whitaker dies. Does that? Yeah. And then the debate should be
the CIA, like, pressuring her to take time off, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. That's, whether or not she should take time off or if she should go back to the town and pursue what happened to her partner. And then break into 2 should be, she finds something in the town, like either she searches the water. It's something that's like maybe some town politics. You know?
What if the sheriff is up for re-election?
Okay.
And that would bring in her character more to the plot of... Yes. It's like a corrupt... she's fucking winning, but it's not a real... it's rigged.
It's a rigged election. Yeah. What about the Jay character is wanting to run for sheriff, too? But he's just like the radio guy.
I don't think he's going to run, but I feel like he... You know, since he's the conspiracy guy, I feel like he's speaking the truth about the corruption, but he's like the trickster archetype. He's speaking the truth, but nobody's paying attention because he's the weirdo.
Okay. Interesting. Well, I don't think there would be a lot of conflict there if the sheriff doesn't have opponent. So she needs an opponent or something that would impede her from getting reelected. And how does that fit Victoria into it?
What if her opponent is one of the victims that kind of brings the Victoria character, like that's her first case is that opponent, something happens. And then that would put the sheriff on her radar of potential suspects.
Interesting. I like it. Okay. So the break-in 2 is that she goes back to the town and she, like, questions people. And that's what turns into the story. And then the B story is, like, developing the romance between Victoria... The love.
Cute, awkward people.
I can totally see their dynamic, too.
I know.
Like, I love it.
It's like toothache. Like, just stop. But also you love it.
I know. And so the fun games of it would be, or the promise of the premise... would be
investigation station.
Yeah, the investigating, the talking to the townspeople, the we need to plant some seeds of doubt of, like, is this aliens? Because even though she saw that something happened to the Forrest Whitaker character, I feel like that happens too. You know?
Yeah. Well,
we said in Forrest Whitaker. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we're saying the fun and games is the investigation, and we said the first half of the movie is we think he's a victim, and then at the midpoint, which is where we're about to be, that's when we find out that it was a self-sacrifice situation, and that...
Yeah. I think that should be break into 3, is that was a self-sacrifice situation, not a midpoint. Okay. I think the midpoint needs to be...
Well, the midpoint can also serve as like a false victory or a false loss, right?
Yes. So what if they like find something, but it's like not what they need? Mm-hmm. Like it's like they found that it was the water being poisoned, and then it's like kind of what is it?
They found a symptom, but not the cause, or something.
Well, I think yes. I think maybe they do find, like, some kind of toxin in the water. Yeah. Like, she pushes for that, or maybe the sheriff pushes for that, something, and they find that, and she knows there's something more to it, but then the townspeople and the CIA are like, we're good with that, even though the CIA know it's not that. Yes.
What if they got, like, really close? So now, like, the CIA and or the sheriff is like, we need to keep an eye on them. Or something. Like, they weren't taking it seriously before, but now it's like, okay, we might need to take care of this problem.
Yes. And maybe they go and try to, like, maybe, because, like, the midpoint is, like, a victory thing, but then she finds something that's, like, it doesn't, like, maybe her and the J character talk about it, and she's like, this doesn't feel right. This doesn't just feel like some kind of poisoning. This feels like it's so much more like you.
Or she could be like, they're kind of like celebrating or whatever. Or it's like a date, but also the celebration. And she's just like, I feel like I should feel better, right? Or I should have closure with the death of my partner, but it still doesn't feel like it's over or something like, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And then that goes into that whole thing of like the Jay doubting, you know, what he believed of like, I can't believe you're still fucking dating me. I'm so weird. I believed in aliens and you're still here with me and I was wrong.
Yeah.
So that
they can turn it around like, sorry, but maybe he says something like, maybe there's something wrong with you actually. Should I still be dating you? Like, should I be doing a background check on you?
I love it. I love it. Yes. Yes. But I feel like then she goes and like looks at that like that same location where he died, and maybe like
that reminds me of like serial killers revisiting the scene, and it's like that would play into our unreliable narrator thing of she goes back to the crime scene after it's quote unquote over, and anyway,
I like it. Okay, bad guys close in. The bad guys close in has to be either something with the sheriff or the CIA. Obviously the CIA.
Well, I think the sheriff, because that's supposed to be like our proxy little bad guy or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the bad guys close in has to be something with the sheriff, and then she like either reveals that she's working with the CIA and that basically anything that the Victoria character does, it's game over.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't have a choice.
Yeah.
And then the break into 3 is... What if the break into 3 is like... What if she tries to go back to the place, but it's like, suddenly there's a wall or something that's like built around... There's a perimeter now, and she can't get in.
Ooh, going back to the election, what if the sheriff promised some kind of change to the town, and then that location was picked for groundbreaking or whatever. So now it's going to be like literally covered up with, you know, politics shit to like a diversion.
Yes. Yes. But I like that maybe there's like a physical thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like impeding. Yes, I like it. Yes. So then she goes to like investigate that. And then that's where she like comes head to head with I think it has to be the CIA director. Like the guy that at the beginning that was like, hey, you should take some time off. And then she comes head to head with him. Maybe not the director, but like her superior at the CIA. Maybe he's like, ignorance is bliss. Maybe he gives that kind of speech of like, what you don't know can't hurt you.
Yes. Especially it would fall into the line of like, she's just a soldier in the thing and you don't need to know. It's a need to know situation.
Yeah, it's a need to know situation.
Yeah.
And so that's when and then he's like, takes her badge.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you kept pushing it. So that's where the all is lost
mm-hmm.
is, because she has nothing at that point.
Yeah.
And then, like, also the townspeople need to hate her at that point,
mm-hmm.
because she keeps pushing that it's something else.
What if the sheriff is, as this is going, has, like, done this propaganda thing of this outsider coming into town trying to tell y'all, coming in your houses, asking you questions over things that don't matter, or bringing up hurtful, you know what I mean? Like,
yes, bringing
perpetuating this tragedy when we just need to move on as a community and heal. And that would bring in the whole, maybe it was a memorial that they're putting up to cover up the event.
Exactly. Yeah. I like it. Yes. And so the townspeople don't like, even though that, like, maybe she's the one who found is it that she found the source of maybe she found the source of the poisoning, and so they like her because of that, because of something else. That's what leads them to not like her. Does that make sense?
What if, we're talking about water, right? So what if it was,
mm-hmm.
Something to do with the what do they call it? Like the water department. So, like, they find the source of the mm-hmm. water department, but then it costs people their jobs because they have to redo the shit.
Ooh, what if the town, their whole thing is a water bottling company?
Yeah.
And that's what's keeping the town alive, is like, because, like, if you know anything about water bottling, like, they don't
everything about water
purify
bottling.
That. I mean, obviously everyone knows about water bottling.
Who does?
But, like, they don't
teach
purify
that in kindergarten.
Shit. They just, like, literally, like, you know what
yeah.
I'm saying? So what if that's the thing? Is, like, this town is known for, like, bottling their water. Yeah. And then they get sick.
Now we definitely have to call the town,
shut down.
Like, something Creek.
Bear Creek.
Yeah.
Or something.
Or maybe, like, Sterling Creek, to bring it back to Silence of the Lambs. Sterling Creek.
Yeah. I love it. Sterling Creek. I love it. Oh my god. So then, yes, because she finds out that the creek itself is what's poisoning people, that just, like, literally everyone's job
mm-hmm.
is lost.
Yes.
So, like, even though it's a victory for her, it's the townspeople hate her, and they don't. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then when she goes to, like, goes back to, like, the scene of the crime, that's when she runs into the her superior at the CIA.
Yes.
And he fires, or she just gets fired, you know? Mm-hmm. And so that's when her debate of, like, do I need to leave this town? She knows there's something else because it was too easy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what her dark night of the soul is like.
Or maybe it doesn't answer the question that he left her with. We talk about, they had that conversation, and then we have this thing that's phrased throughout the thing. And maybe that's, like, her internal struggle is figuring out what he meant by whatever he told her. And once she gets to the end of this false victory, it's still left unanswered. So it's like that nagging, missing piece of the puzzle thing.
And then, like, Jay kind of breaks things off with her too, because he realizes that she's gone too far with the alien stuff. Yeah. Because even he was, like, a conspiracy theorist, but then it's just too, like, she's just so convinced it's aliens.
Where is the line? And she crossed it.
Where is the line?
Yeah.
And she crossed it, so she loses that too. And then she has that debate. We need to figure out what turns her into, like, figuring that. I think she has to jump the fence, right? Like, that's, like, her determining moment, and to break into 3 is to, like, look what's behind the barrier.
Because, she's literally cut off from every connection. The CIA, Jay's character, everything is, she's cut off. So now she's literally just this lone whatever. She's got nothing else to lose. So now she's really gonna... It's almost like a double self-sacrifice. Like, we found out that her mentor self-sacrificed. It's like that's what it's leading up to. Like a Harry Potter moment.
Yeah.
Like, she's got to just totally blind leap of faith, motherfucker. Going back to the theme.
And go in there. And she jumps it.
Yeah.
Or she gets in some way. from some kind of knowledge we found out in Promise of the Premise.
Yes.
With those people.
Not to get too Indiana Jones, but what if it's like where they, we're talking about water bottling. So what if we go to the source of where they get the water, and she literally has to like jump off that cliff of where that's where the stone is. So like logically she's looking at this cliff like, I can't just jump the waterfall and whatever. But like everything's done, all is lost, dark night of the soul. She just fucking jumps off the cliff.
CIA is coming from the forest.
Yes.
She's being chased after. Yes.
Yes.
Love it. That's part of the finale. And then she discovers the stone.
Mm-hmm. And the aliens show up. That. They beam her down.
Yes. I love it. And then that's like part of the finale is that she's fighting the CIA, but the break into 3 is that she's like running from the CIA, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. She finds the stone. She gets it. She knows she has to move it away from this town and like give it back to the aliens at this point, right? Mm-hmm. And so then they beam her up, whatever. She figures it out. And then she gives back the stone. Then they tell her maybe some cryptic things about herself. Yeah. And then she's placed back into the town. Mm-hmm. And suddenly it's kind of revealed that the cop was corrupt.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would love it if she woke up in the hospital. The TV is on. There's news coverage of the sheriff, that whole resolution thing. Mm-hmm. Then the nurse or whatever comes in to check on her. Either Jay has left her flowers or he's in there sleeping in the chair. Mm-hmm. And the nurse comes in there to check on her. She's like, what happened? You're fine now. It's okay. And, the news is on. She's like, oh, can you even believe it? And then she turns the channel and it's the show that her mentor talked about in the beginning of
Love it. I like that maybe the excuse is that the sheriff was poisoning the water. I mean, like, the news story is that the sheriff was poisoning the water to help with her re-election. Mm-hmm. And, like, the news never says it was aliens the whole time. But that's, like, why the sheriff took the fall.
Yes.
Yeah, I like it. And then...
self-sacrifice.
Yes, all that,
3
blah,
hits.
blah, blah.
Mentor. She did. Sheriff. Boom. 3. We got our 3.
And so the final image has to be something where she's like thinking about herself as an alien, or is that whatever show that is needs to be like it. That main character was the alien the whole time.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking.
And then that's what we end on is like maybe that questioning face of
we talked about
is it me?
We talked about Twilight Zone, and that made me think of that episode where it's the black and white alien people. One side of their face is black and the other one's white, and they talk about identity and stuff. It would be cool if it was that one.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, love it. All right, well that's what should be the title for this. Should just be the name? Like the name of the town?
Good God, no. The town name is not that interesting to carry the movie. I keep thinking, I love a good point.
Well, it has something to do with water.
Yeah, I have a joke title, but you're gonna hate it.
No, go for it.
I was thinking of like a pun rephrase of planes, trains, and automobiles, but it's like creeks, aliens, and tinfoil hats or some shit like that. Something better than that, but anyways. Obviously, that's not
maybe
a serious...
Maybe it's like Tin Town. It has something to do... I like maybe Tin Town, or... I don't know. I'm good with something hokey like that as a working title.
What is a saying that people say about knowledge and,
The Beholder? Like, we could call it like... I like that, The Beholder.
Yeah.
Knowledge is in the power of the beholder.
No, you're thinking of beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I keep going back to that thing you said earlier about things not being what they seem. But, like, what is one word that describes that, or what is a phrase? Because, that's another thing about thrillers. They love, like, a phrase title, like Eye for an Eye and shit. Like, that's literally a title of a movie thriller.
I'm sure. Knowledge is power. It has to be something like knowledge is power.
What about As Far as Anyone Knows?
I love it, yeah.
I literally saw this phrase and I was like, As you know how, especially Southern, you know, when people say, as far as we know.
Yeah.
That makes me laugh.
That kind of, yeah, I like it. As far as anybody knows, that's the title.
And it also talks about going the distance. Like, it implies, like, this distance. And we literally go on this journey. Anyways, whatever. It's a fake title. It's fine.
Love it. As far as anybody knows.
It's a fake movie.
The story's done.
Fade out. Roll credits.
Fade out. So let's talk about producer's notes, whether or not we would actually produce this film.
I would probably, yes, I would produce it because I did not have high hopes for this, especially when you brought up aliens. I'm just not an alien person. I watch alien movies, but they're not like my go-to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But once we got going on this, I was like, I really like this actually. So yes, I would definitely produce it. I'm almost tempted to be like, I want to be director on this because I can see things about it, you know?
Yeah, it's a very here's the thing, as far as I'm going to talk about very practical stuff. Yeah. For the most part, it's set in one town.
Yes.
It's going to be fairly cheap to shoot. Mm-hmm. You know? The only thing that would be an expense is how CGI we would want to make the aliens.
I'm a firm believer in the less. Yeah.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
Steven Spielberg school of thought of either saving it for the end or you don't actually see a lot, you know.
We would definitely save it for the end. But it kind of reminds me of whatever Hush's production not Hush. What am I thinking of? The Quiet Place. Whatever that I feel like those are very comparable productions to this. Where it's pretty much one location. We might see some action there's going to be a lot of extras, but that's nothing compared to what CGI cost. It's very practical to shoot, and it would really what would really make or break it is the actors you cast. Yeah. Even though we threw out names and stuff of what our dream would be.
I would not hate doing a couple of unknowns, even though we've named notable people. But obviously we have older characters, and if we got one or both of those where you would know those people, but then the younger people would be unknowns, you know?
Yes. Yeah. I would be dope with that too. Yeah. I'm down. So overall, yeah, I would definitely direct it. I think I was unsure about the whole thriller aspect because I have directed a thriller short film before, and that's I haven't ever gone back to that. Yeah. You know, it was kind of I did it, and now I've done drama and comedy and that kind of thing. Yeah. So I was kind of a little hesitant about it too, and all I thought about was okay, it's a thriller, and I want aliens in it, and I want a female protagonist. Yeah. And then from there, I feel built out a pretty good story that could definitely sell.
And the thing about it is even though we had a lot of details in it, I feel you could there's still different directions you could go. And it really would depend on who directed it. Because, even though I'm picturing a certain tone, if you directed it, it would probably end up being a different tone. Or if somebody like David Fincher filmed it, it would be way more serious than I'm imagining it.
Yeah. I wanted to have a little bit of yes, it's overall serious, but there's a little edge of comedy to it.
Same.
It's just a little self-deprecating.
Because you're dealing with aliens, and like I said, I'm not anti-alien, but what was that joke? It's we're talking about, you remember? I'm showing my Marvel nerd again, but Endgame, when the Hulk was we're talking about time travel, either it's all a joke or none of it is.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, so that's a wrap on this episode. Thank you so much for listening. And I want to thank you, Jazz, for sharing your thoughts and your time for this week.
Let us know what you thought of our pitch and if you would do anything different. You can drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're on YouTube, why don't you give us a thumbs up?
Yeah, exactly. You can also follow us on iTunes and Spotify, and be sure to follow us on Twitter and TikTok.
So until next time, we'll be watching.
You know what I've been watching lately?
No, that's why I asked.
Well, thank you. I've been watching RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yeah.
Pretty much binging that. I watched it a few years ago when it was like seasons 4, 5, and 6, and now I'm like binging the rest.
I want to watch Concrete Cowboy. Just came on Netflix, and I'm really excited about that.
Ooh, same. Thank you for listening to Female Film Bros.
We're female, we talk about film, and we're pretty much bros.
So it's all accurate.